Hello everyone, and welcome to my Hearts of Iron 3 Let's Play. I just wanted to start by saying that I'm sure that a lot of you have been wanting to see me play this game since I've raved so much about Hearts of Iron 3 and even played Hearts of Iron 2 as Republic in Spain, and I played through the Civil War and completely destroyed the nationalist Spanish in only about 6 months or so. And I'm sure a lot of you would like to know what I actually like to play as when I play as Hearts of Iron 3, and that would be Germany. Now, the reason for this is because Germany is probably the most important country in World War II, and they really had the most, potential for winning the war, at least according to me. I think there's a lot of ways they could have won the war, honestly. Not that I'm saying that they should have won the war, but still, it's very, very interesting to go about what they might have been able to do and so forth. So I'm going to be playing as Germany. Both difficulty and game mode are on normal. The only thing that really changes in difficulty is that the AI gets stronger when you put it on hard or very hard, and you get stronger on easy or very easy. It only increases how hard it is for you to attack the AI or the AI to attack you. It's just pretty much gimmicky. It doesn't really increase their intelligence. Game mode normal basically just means that supplies work realistically. If a unit is surrounded and it has no way to get to supplies, then it's going to start running out of supplies, and the men are going to start dying from starvation and so forth. But if you put it in arcade, everything just gets thrown out the window when it comes to realism. It just sort of does whatever it wants, besides the fact that, guys can be supplied even though there's no real chain of supply. So, yeah, it's kind of funny. And you probably want everything on player control because the AI is not very good at managing things. And the victory conditions, this game does have victory conditions, unlike Europa Universalis, which you just sort of end up playing until 1821 rolls around and you just pretty much look at what happened. This actually does have victory conditions. This is a game that you can win. It actually is very competitive, and it's pretty much all about war. There's virtually nothing when it comes to everything else. I mean, there's no domestic affairs. There's virtually nothing when it comes to politics other than who's controlling who and so forth and so forth. But overall, these victory conditions are pretty good. They're basically just basic stuff like control Moscow, Stalingrad, Leningrad, Operation Barbarossa, and Sea Line. Sea Line was the proposed invasion of Britain, actually, which was never taken out because Hitler just decided to scrap it for some reason. I don't know why. There's a lot of things behind it. In fact, there's even a few conspiracies going on about why exactly that was even done in the first place. So, yeah, I've never really played as any other country because I've never really thought it to be that interesting, because after all, if you play as the Allies, all you're basically doing is just repeating history, and that's not really that much fun, If you play as Japan, Japan's really weak in a lot of ways. They're very unbalanced. Their navy is pretty goddamn strong, but other than that, they really suck in land combat. I mean, their tanks are terrible. They have horrible tech teams. They really aren't that good of a country to play as. Italy is sort of the same way. Not very strong. They're just pretty much just a weak ally of Germany more than anything. The U.S. is pretty much overpowered. They can practically win the war by themselves. So the same goes for the Soviet Union. It's an interesting country to play as, but I'm not really going to do that. UK is the same. France is the same. But France and the United Kingdom are pretty much just, weaker versions of the U.S. I mean, France gets destroyed almost every single time, even when the AI plays as Germany. And you can in this game, I wanted to just say this. I'm sure a lot of other people have said this. You can play as any country on the map. I'm not kidding. No matter what country is on the map, you can play as it. Like I could play as Honduras or Nicaragua or Ethiopia or Tibet or Shaanxi or the Philippines or Australia or anybody. I mean, literally anybody that's their own independent country. You can play as them. And so, you got a lot of choices. You can start at 1936. That's the earliest start date. I always start there because it gives you the most freedom. And you can go all the way up to after the U.S. has already landed in in France, and the Russians have already pushed the Germans back practically to their pre-war borders with Poland and the Soviet Union, and they're pretty much screwed. And that's pretty much how the real war went. The Soviets just kept pushing back more and more and more into Germany. Eventually, they took Berlin and everything else down here, and the U.S. and the French and the British, they just kept pushing up here, and the Poles and others. Canadians were also there too, as well as I think Australians and New Zealanders, but I'm not really sure. They just kept pushing up here, and they eventually took out everything on the West. And that's how the Cold War started, where the Soviet Union was pretty much pitted against the West, which would include Germany, at least Western Germany. So, what I'm basically going to try to do is I'm going to try to prevent that, and I'm going to install myself as leader of the Third Reich and try to create an empire that will last 1,000 years. Yes, I'm going to try to win the war as Germany. That's exactly what I'm going to try to do. That's a very interesting picture, actually, because oddly enough, that wasn't even taken when they won the battle. That was like way before they won the Battle of Iwo Jima. And a lot of those guys actually got killed later on in the battle, and Ira Hayes committed suicide, I believe. He was one of the guys who raised the flag there. I looked at the guys. Okay, so we're in the game. I got distracted there with American history. I should be talking about Germany, since I'm playing as Germany, not the U.S. So here's the game, and basically the first thing that you want to do is not get distracted by all these blocks that turn into soldiers when you zoom in. First you want to pay attention to the stuff up here. These are your resources, so I'll go over them later, and then these are your tabs. So first of all, I'm going to go in diplomacy, and first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I'm not influencing anybody, because honestly, if I'm going to do this as Germany, I'm not going to invite anyone into the Axis, because I cannot stand to have allies in this game. It just sucks. Here's the first thing. I'm not going to influence anybody. That's right. I'm not going to influence anybody. I'm going to do this completely on my own. I'm only going to take I'm going to do all the events, like the reoccupation of the Rhineland and all the others, but anything that gives me an ally, I'm not going to do. I do not want any allies. This is going to be a total conquest of the world. No puppet states, no Vichy France, no nothing. This is a total conquest of the world. And that does mean I'm going to declare war on Italy and Japan. So, there you go. That's what I'm going to be doing in this Let's Play, because I've done it 100 times before where I've had allies and it was just way too easy. So I'm going to do this for real now, where Germany really does take over the world. Okay, so now that I've gotten that out of the way, diplomacy is basically just your basic stuff where you interact with other countries. It's not really that important, you just sort of go through it and it can help you a little bit, but really all it is for influencing countries. And here's the most important part. The production. This is where you make the stuff that helps you to win wars. So, you've got slot things over here. You call them sliders. You can move them back and forth. That's why they call them sliders. They're not tiny burgers. So you got 6 different things. Upgrades, reinforcement, yada yada yada. So what I do is I always put nothing into upgrades, nothing into reinforcement until the war starts, I believe. Well, I don't know, maybe I should put it in before the war starts, because it can get really high, and that can really fuck you up if you're trying to build up a lot of stuff. But I'm going to be playing very, very crazily if you just bear with me. I'm going to explain how I do this, because I think this might be one of the more effective ways to actually play this. I'm going to put supplies on very low, and as you can see, I'm funding a lot into production. There's like over 150 into production, and the reason for that is because you need to build stuff in this game in order to win. The guy who builds the most stuff is almost always going to win. And if you've got good technology, and if you've got a good officer ratio, and good leaders in every spot, you're pretty much all set, just as long as you don't order your guys to go take over the worst possible place in the game, or something like that, or just order way too many guys into certain spots. So we've got 3 projects going on here. They're all ships. They're pointless, but I let them go anyway because they're so close to being done and they take hardly anything out of production. So I just let them finish, and it does give me a little bit of practical stuff, which helps me to build things that are similar to it faster. It doesn't really matter. I'm not going to be building any 3 of these types of classes of ships. The only type of class of ship that I'm going to build are carriers. Nothing else. I'm only building carriers. I've got plenty of cruisers. I've got battle cruisers, heavy cruisers, light cruisers. I don't need any more cruisers. And battleships are useless. They are fucking useless. Carriers, annihilate them. Do not build battleships. They are a waste of time. Heavy cruisers defend against carriers, though, because they have the highest air attack of all the ships in the game. So they're really helpful. That's why I never build anything except for carriers. Do not build subs. They will get killed on their own. Do not build destroyers. You don't need them. Do not build light cruisers. They're bad at everything. Heavy cruisers and carriers are the only useful ship classes as far as I'm concerned. Transports are useful. They are used to basically send your guys off and transport them from one place to another that's only reachable by sea or air. But you can't really put anybody in transport planes other than paratroopers, I believe. But anyway, so the first thing I'm going to do with my production tab is that I'm going to increase supplies just a tiny bit, because supplies are really useful trade resources. So now I've got like about 167. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to order some Waffen. I'm going to get some Waffen SS units out. The reason these guys are so good is because they have a lot of offensive power, because they have so much higher organization. As you can see here, it says organization 40 is pretty much the main thing for all of them. That's the base. These guys have 60 as their max, so that's pretty good. Organization basically is what determines how effective your troops are in combat, other than all these other stats, which determine directly how they're effective against certain types of units. But as you can see here, this unit is pretty strong. It's got pretty good hard attack, pretty good soft attack. It's doesn't have any air attack. That doesn't mean anything really, because you don't really need to have anti-air guns in your units. It just wastes offensive power against land units. What you really should do is you should make all your land units purely built for fighting land battles and nothing else. Don't make air unit anti-air units. Don't make any of that shit. Build fighters to protect your infrastructure, because they are the most useful. When you have radar going and all your fighters go on an air intercept or air superiority, you only get like one bomber group through, and it gets annihilated by interceptors. So don't even bother with anti-aircraft guns or anything. They help slightly, but not nearly enough to make a real difference. So we're gonna make 3 of these, because we can only make 3. We've already got 3 Waffen SS brigades out right now, but we can get a max of 6 technically. You can actually get more, because when you annex Austria and the Sudetenland, or actually not the Sudetenland, but when you annex Austria, you actually get an extra Waffen SS unit. So it's a little bit of a trick, but you actually get more special units than what other countries can get. It's kind of awesome. So we're gonna make those 3, and since we already got these boats being built, we can't really build anything that's that useful. So we're gonna build 10 transports. That's pretty good for just transporting guys around. The air wing, I think, since I've been playing Hearts of Iron 2 for so long, I pretty much got used to only having like about 4 fighter groups in a squadron to pretty much hole up in a base. But I've heard that actually having 3 is a better number, because there's less of a stacking penalty and it's a little bit more effective. But I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm gonna have to see what exactly. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe putting them all into one. Well, I've seen this before, where it's like if you only have one fighter group in a squadron, and you send it off, other fighter groups won't won't try to engage the bombers that it's engaging. So I'm almost thinking that having 4 in each one might actually be the best idea. So, but really the most important thing to build from your air wing, that you have 3 different things here. This is land, air, and sea units. But the really most important thing to develop from your air wing is interceptors, because those shoot down enemy planes, and that's basically what you want. Is you want air superiority, because then if you want, you can use bombers as much as possible and they won't get destroyed very easily. Always build interceptors above anything else. If you don't have enough interceptors, you're pretty much going to see your industry just get completely annihilated. So always build interceptors. Always, always, always build interceptors. I'm gonna order 3 out for now. I'm gonna try 3 in each squadron, see how that works. So nothing else to really do here other than order a little bit more into production supplies. I like to usually build up my supplies to its max level, because they can be really helpful to it can be really helpful to have that, because there's a lot of events that fuck up your production so that you can't have everything completely efficiently. So I like to just do that. So now that production's out of the way, let's go to technology. And basically, the first thing you want to do here is only fund spies a little bit, because they're useless. They hardly do anything at all. Just fund them enough so that you're getting a little bit amount. I usually like to go to 44 because it's just cool. It's 0.07. I'm sure you get the reference. Nothing on diplomacy. It's totally unnecessary, and since I'm not going to be befriending anybody, I'm just going to let it go. And then everything else on research, I always try to, when there's enough to fund these other stuff, I always try to get as many projects done as there are whole numbers. Because every single one of these takes one whole number out of research, so that's what I always try to do. So now I can do 29 technology projects, and these are all the projects you can do. You got infantry, armor, and so on and so forth. But this is kind of deceiving, because at first it looks like, oh, I can just fund these particular things and it'll go up, and only these things will go up, and it'll be really efficient because I'll keep doing that. Wrong. Research everything. Even if it doesn't have anything to do with what you're doing, it still may have something to do with it. Like, for example, right here, escort carrier. You look down here. This is what really goes into the meat of it here. We have 5 skill in naval engineering, which impacts this research with 30%, improves the research speed by 0%. That basically means there's nothing in it. There's the base amount, so it's not decreasing, it's not increasing, it's just at the base for that. And basically, practical and theory, which practical you get from building stuff, theory you get from researching, those 2 types of things basically go into different kinds of things to make your technology go up faster. And as I said before, practical makes you build stuff faster, so that's how that works. And so, what we're going to do here is I'm going to start by researching all 4 of the regular infantry researches. Don't even bother with these. Cavalry are useless, and militia are basically just weaker infantry. And you never want to fund anything that's out of date, because when you do that, it really fucks up the research time. It can take a really long time to research, even if it's 1 year off. Unless you've got a lot of stuff behind the computing machines that increase research speed, don't even bother with researching something that's out of date. But as soon as that counter up there, time goes by 1 hour every second basically in this game. As soon as it goes to 1st of January, 0 hour 1937, all the 1937 texts will suddenly not have that penalty. I don't believe there's a bonus for researching stuff that's already way obsolete. I don't think there is. I think it only goes down to the base no penalty when you get to that year for in terms of research speed. And it's not just practical and theory, not just the time. There's also difficulty numbers next to each one. And the reason behind this is that some things just are harder to research, no matter whether or not you're in the time frame that they probably researched in real life. Like, for example, nuclear research. Very hard thing to research, especially since it's so complicated in so goddamn many ways. Agriculture, not really. Not really nearly as much as complicated. Doctrines, pretty complicated. Pretty hard to research those kinds of things. Theory, not really, because you're looking at other stuff. But so we've got infantry going. That's good for infantry. I'm not going to do anything here. Well, I am going to research tanks, but I want to research this stuff first because I need to build up my theory for artillery. I'm going to be building a lot of artillery and anti-tank things. Probably want to leave off on this just for now. Capital ships. First want to do escort carrier. Just sort of leave off on that now. Do these two so I get a little bit more practical in air, or theory rather in air. Nothing there that's really in date. Research that, research that, research that, research that and that, research that, because that goes into tank engines. And that should be good for theory. And the thing about doctrines, and a lot of these other technologies that are very troop-oriented, is that you probably don't want to research doctrines until war breaks out, really. Unless it's just something that's completely out of date, that you probably need a lot better in doctrines. For example, like some of these are 1918 levels. You really definitely want to research those. Anything that's 1938 is pretty good for starting up in war, even into 1941 and 1942. That's pretty good to have it 1938 standards of stuff. But and by 1938, I actually mean 1936, because this actually means that you can research this for 1938. So, you know, like here, integrated support is at its 1936 level, I believe. So, got a lot of stuff to spend, so we probably want to put a lot into, don't really need that much for fighters. We've pretty much got all the stuff that's really necessary here. As you can see, there's a lot of ways to determine what exactly needs to be researched. Like here, you can see there's hardly anything for the mobile warfare stuff, so it's really not that necessary. Just I just do that, honestly. Just go for for these three here. The cool thing about theory is that it decreases the decay at which various theories decay. Yes, your technology does decay if you don't spend time researching into it, and so does the practical, which decays on its own because you're not building enough of the stuff that you're building for it to not decay. That's what it is. So yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm gonna research some of these useless techs for the ships and leave off on the tanks until a little bit later, because those are a little bit harder to research. I'm going to leave off on the doctrines for now, because a lot of them aren't really that useful, and they're at pretty good levels for now. But I'm going to be researching a lot of doctrines later on when I've got a lot of this stuff researched. I'm not even going to look at this. This I'm not going to do until 1939. I may get Marines. I don't know. They're not really that useful. I mean, they're pretty good at amphibious assaults, but I'm not going to be doing that many. I'll probably research it right before I go to war with Britain, maybe around late 1939, somewhere around there. Maybe 1937 if I've got the time. But as I said before, there's a lot of ships in this game and a lot of units in this game that are totally useless. So, yeah, destroyers are pretty useful, but in all honesty, when you're playing as Germany, you've got plenty of resources. You don't need to train with anybody. Destroyers are totally used for destroying submarines, and they also give a screen bonus. So that basically means that enemy ships are going to target them instead of bigger ships, so that gives you a little bit of defensive bonus for your bigger ships, which is good, but it's not everything. It's better to have more power than it is to waste time with building destroyers. I may have a few destroyers in some of my ships, but I'm probably going to end up having heavy cruisers instead, actually. I think I'll research some of this stuff. So all the ones, I'll research those. Research the destroyers. Research that. I won't research the subs because they're useless. Subs get killed way too easily, and they're not very useful for fighting. Research that. Research that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's see here. Is there anything else I can research that'll help me? No, not really. Well, I guess I could get started on Schwerpunkt. That's pretty important. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do for my research. Okay. I always try to set the production and the technology slightly above. That way it doesn't build or research it at like 99.999%. It does slow it down a little bit, but it's just a good idea to set it slightly above the number that it says it needs. So, for stuff like that. So now we got politics. This is an important part too, because this is where you affect what ministers you have, and also you can see which party is the most powerful in your country. More important for a democratic country, not for Germany though, because they're national socialists. They don't have elections. There is no change in party unless there was a coup or something like that. So, as you can see, the NSDAP is the most organized and also is the most popular right now. That's going to fluctuate the popularity, but the organization does not fluctuate really. It more fluctuates based on events and your what's the word? Your influence on it from the spies. That's what I meant to say. So that's pretty much all there is to popularity and party stuff. I mean, you can influence who's the more powerful in other countries, but it doesn't really matter that much, really, because, you know, it's more fun to fight on your own, really. It's more of a test of skill than anything. So, yeah, so you can change your ministers here. And I usually leave this guy in because he's okay. Susceptibility to Axis is nice. But I think when I get, well, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. Well, actually it does, because, yeah, I think when I get a popular, well, when I get a guy that'll increase the popularity of my ruling party, I'll try to do that, because this is really meaningless, because as I said, I'm not going to be getting any allies, so, you know, that's what I'm going to be doing. So, first of all, the most important one to do is this one, because Helmer Schacht gives you plus 10% IC, and industrial capacity, that's how much you have to spend on production, by the way. So he's giving plus 10%, that's an enormous boost. You want to put Goebbels in control of the security, because he increases his leadership by 5%, that's what you use to fund this. And Canaris, he's not really that good. Put Frick in, that helps your spies a little bit. Fritz Berlin, put him in, because he increases supply throughput, that makes the supplies go a little bit more efficiently. Put Werner von Blomberg in chief of the army, because he's pretty good at reducing supplies, and thereby increasing your the overall strength of your economy, which is the more important part. Put Eric Rader in there, just leave him in there, he's okay. I wish there was a thing that was totally... I wish there was a chief of the Navy which was totally suited towards the lack of decay from carriers, but I haven't seen one yet. Ulrich Grauert, he's pretty good because he reduces the decay of light aircraft, so that's pretty much how my ministry looks. Of course, you got Hitler and Hess. They can't remove them because they're pretty much hardwired into the government. Hitler for obvious reasons. Hess, I'm not really sure why. And then intelligence, definitely want to make more domestic than foreign, because when you spend too much on foreign espionage, a lot of your spies get killed because you're basically attacking another country and you got to go through their web of spies essentially. But you want to put most of your focus on domestic spy espionage, because other countries will try to steal your blueprints for technology and stuff like that. So just try to balance it out. You know, I mean, if you're trying to go for like one country to like destabilize it a lot, you can do that. It doesn't really work very well, and you can't even try to coup it. But as I said, I'm not going to form any allies, so I'm not even going to worry about that. Basically, you want to put everything in counter-espionage. That reduces how effective enemy spies are. And then raise the national unity with 2 priority, and then support the ruling party with 1 priority. I'm so glad that they put this in like for the motherland or something like that. I can't remember which one it was, but it was the one expansion pack, I guess you could call it, to Hearts of Iron, which I get changed the version. It really did increase a lot of stuff, and their finest hour really went over a lot of stuff to make it a lot better. So Yeah, that's pretty much all I'm going to do. I'm going to let all the spies die because I can't in enemy countries because I can't do anything to really get them out or anything. It would be great if I could order all my spies back. That would be wonderful. Then I'd have an enormous amount of spies to fund in where I actually want to have spies. But evidently there's just no way of doing that. So all these guys are going to end up getting killed. That's unfortunate. But yeah, that's about all there is to it, really. So, let's see. Oh yeah, I did want to go over to production, by the way, a little bit more. First of all, from their finest hour, they added a lot of good things to production. For one thing, they gave you a thing over here for your land units that basically shows how much of a combined arms bonus you have. This is infinitely important. When you have this up to its max, which is 20%, it is fucking impossible to destroy these units. These units are near invincible. As long as you have a high officer ratio and good commanders, they will chew through anything in sight. But the important thing is to get the right units that give you that combined arms bonus. Because some are useless, and some are not. So I'm going to create my 2 templates here. They give you a bunch of different things. They all suck. Every single one of them. They're just a bunch of crap. I mean, look at this one. Volksturm, are you kidding me? 2 militia and a tank destroyer? That would get totally destroyed by infantry. Motorized? Yeah, right. That's okay. It's not very good. Yeah, it's just, yeah. Ugh. Just blobs of light armor. Okay. But really what you want to try to focus on is armor and infantry brigades, and there's different ways of constructing them, but I'm gonna show you a way that I've learned that I think is the most effective way to build up both units. So template X is going to be armor because it's the more important one, and at first it's going to be light armor, but I'm going to change that to armor when I finally upgrade it to armor. I'm going to put motorized in there because they're the strongest fast unit that goes with armor. And they're also the infantry part, so you have to have infantry, then armor, and then either direct fire support or artillery. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put tank destroyer in there, because that gives them an enormous offensive punch compared to enemy tanks. And I'm going to put engineers in there. Now this may be a little bit of a surprise, because engineers are complete shit when it comes to stats. But I'm going to show you something that I don't think the guys who made this game wanted you to see. If you look at one of the engineer units, there's something a little funny about them. Yeah, there's one. Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot of stats. You know, what's that? 50+% forward attack? Whoa, that's huge. Let's see. Plus 65% river attack? Oh my god. Plus 100% river defense? Plus 5% river movement? Holy shit! Engineers are fucking badasses. They make everything go smoothly. I mean, look at this. Look at these. Look at these stats. I mean, this is ridiculous. It even increases amphibious attacks, so that means you want to put them in with your Marines who are best at amphibious attacks. But seriously, I mean, river defense plus 100% and river attack plus 65%, you cannot believe how ungodly important this is. Put engineers in every single one of your units. I don't even give a shit if it's an infantry or tank division. Always put it in the same unit. I mean, plus 50% forward attack, plus 65% river attack. If I had enough units, I could practically go through the Maginot Line with these sons of bitches. So definitely put engineers in every single one of your units. I don't care what it is, even if it's a militia unit. Put a goddamn engineer unit in there, and they will be defensive and offensive monsters. They will kill everything in sight. Okay, so now that I've gone past that, let me just make sure I was constructing those correctly. Okay, yeah, that's good. And so that's template X. That's the armor division. So now we're going to form the infantry. So we put infantry in first. Now I'm going to put armor in there because they're too slow. Then put artillery because they're just as slow. Then anti-tank because they're defensive. And then engineers. So that's going to be the template for template X1, which is rather template 11. And I know that engineers do consume a lot of supplies and a lot of fuel. Well, actually, they don't consume that much fuel. You look at an armor division, they consume a lot of fuel. But they actually do need fuel to move, and that can be a little bothersome when you see that your infantry divisions can't move up. But it's not that bad. And really, the way you want to do this is like the turtle from the tortoise and the hare. Always move steadily. Never go too fast when you try to attack. Even when you're doing a blitzkrieg attack or you're using armor divisions to punch through certain points, never order them up too far. They're going to get surrounded and annihilated. Always move up with the rest of your forces. Always try to get as many divisions on the front as possible. No matter where the hell they are, even if they're just defending, it's always better to have more than less all the time. And always try to get your strongest units up at the front and put your weaker units at the back, because they will take a lot of goddamn hits before they go down. Whereas weak units can get shattered really easily. Just don't even bother with it. So that's pretty much all there is to it, really, what I'm going to do. So now I'm going to show you basically what I've learned is probably one of the better ways of conducting war. So first of all, I hardly even use the Air Force in the East. I just don't even bother with it. The Poles have no Air Force. I don't even care, really. I mean, it's purposeless. I put all my interceptors into the west, so I can defend against British and French bombers, and probably American in the later time. I also put my bombers over here. They're kind of useful for bombing the airfields and overall causing a ruckus. Put the other bombers in Stuttgart over here. Take the other bombers from Breslau and put them down there. That's pretty good. Put those over there too. I'm not going to disband any units. I'm only going to disband land units, actually. And what I do for the Navy is that I just pretty much separate it out into cruiser, capital ship fleets like this one. Get rid of the destroyer and move it over to the left. Probably not going to end up using it anyway. Move the subs over there. They're useless too, but I'm just going to move them over there anyway. So we've got that done. I'm going to separate this out into its separate forces. The battle cruisers over there into that fleet. They're not very useful and they're out of date, but they're okay just as a backup. Put the destroyers in Emden. Got cavalry here. They're going to be destroyed. I'm just going to remove them. Okay, and so I have learned a lot about how combat really works, both from looking at what other people have done and also by my own experience. And what I can say is, this is the most important part. When you have an officer ratio of 140%, your troops are near unstoppable. When it goes under that, and especially when it goes under 100%, they turn into total shit. And you know why? Well, here's why. It's totally insane, but here's why. When you have your officer ratio at its max, which is 140%, the organization of all your units goes up. Yeah. It's a direct bonus to your army. So it doesn't just mean, there's not enough officers to fill the general's roles or so forth. No. No. It's much more important than that. There's a lot more to it than that. But anyway, just wanted to get that out of the way, I suppose. Oh, and also, when you move units, try to do strategic deployment all the time, unless they're going to be going to war. Because strategic deployment basically puts them on trains, and that moves them really fast, no matter where they're going. But if you move guys up to the front, sometimes they won't actually complete their move because they're too close to the fighting and something will happen. I think the AI attacks them or something like that. Well, like, keeps them from moving. It's like they're in their zone of control or some damn thing. And, what I like to do, too, is, also, I'm going to go over order of battle and all that stuff. I've learned a lot of stuff, mostly from that one tutorial that I watched where this one guy just basically went all the way through it and basically showed how it worked in this game. It's much more complex than Hearts of Iron 2. Okay, so what I basically did is I got rid of all the leaders. I turned off auto-assign because I'm going to be assigning my own leaders. And basically the way leaders work in this game is that you've got 3 types of leaders. Well, probably 4, more like 4 types of leaders. First, you got the type of leader that should be in command of the entire army. That would be the ones of the highest skill and bonuses that do not affect the troops that they directly lead, which would be whatever they're directly assigned to. Like this guy, Kluge is only going to be leading these guys directly, but he's in command of everything in the east. So that's basically how that works. In the west, I'm going to have von Rundstedt. He has a level 5 skill. He's pretty good. He doesn't get very much experience, but when you put them up into HQs, but they're okay as they are. Now, there's a lot of stuff to do, but I'm gonna show you all of it, just so that you know what I'm doing. And helpful hint I've found: Control left button on the split units, and that splits them into 3 or 4 separate units. That's extremely helpful. Don't do it with everything, but it's helpful with most other stuff. And also shift click on select that. And then release shift, that only selects those units that you select. That can help cut down a lot of time. So I did some basic stuff there just so to get my army more prepared. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so basically what I'm doing is I'm getting rid of all the duplicates of units, all these different things, like this light armored motorized engineer. That looks good, and it needs a tank destroyer unit in order to be totally effective, but it's pretty good as it is. And this is going to go up with one of those Waffen SS brigades, I believe. I think there's another tank division that I'm missing. Oh, that's really getting slow, isn't it? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is the extremely hard part, but I'm going to wait until I get the event from the Rhineland. And all I've got to do actually is I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to move those guys up. Is I got to move I'm going to move these forces up here, and when I do that, I can get the reoccupation of the Rhineland event and get a lot of money and a lot of other shit. So I'm going to do that first. So I'm just going to leave everything where it is. Not going to bother with anything right now. Yeah, that is a little bit inefficient, isn't it? Okay. Okay, so we're running the time. Okay, I got my first trade deal. Accept that. Always accept the ones that give you rare materials or metal, unless you've got a lot. It'll start updating the amounts soon. Okay, so they're in Bonn, and now I have the national decision available. Reoccupation of the Rhineland. Take it. It's perfectly worthwhile. It's totally worthwhile in every conceivable way. It gives you 500 money, a lot of national unity. It's totally helpful. Is everything good? Okay, good. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Alright, so now that I've gotten that event done, now I can go about reorganizing my army, because the reason I did that is that the reoccupation of the Rhineland event, it requires you to have at least 120 brigades. And yes, by me saying that, that means I am going to be disbanding some troops. And the reason for that is because there are way too fucking many infantry brigades in this army of mine. Way too many. Look at all these guys. Look at all these infantry divisions. And all of them have 3 infantry brigades. Way too fucking many. There is no way I can fund that many goddamn infantry brigades. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split apart every single one of these. That's right, every single one, because I only need 1 infantry brigade per unit. So there's no reason to have this goddamn many infantry brigades, because there's no way in hell that I'm going to have enough IC or officer ratio to fucking fund them all. And I don't even need that many to give you a better clue of what's going on. Okay, so we're splitting them all up. This is extremely important, by the way, because it's a lot easier to do this than it is to split them apart into different troops and so forth. And believe me, I know what I'm talking about. I've tested this a lot. This is going to work. Trust me. And if it doesn't, well, this will be a very short Let's Play then. Okay. Almost got all of them. I know this is probably really boring because I haven't even moved a day. Only moved like about 21 hours. Okay, is there any infantry there? No, there isn't. Oh, and also the reason... let's expand that. Another reason I'm doing this is because infantry... Well, I guess I wanted to say another thing is that the way I usually like to use my army is I like to have my infantry brigades sort of act as a defensive line, but also, you know, assist the tank divisions in pressing through. But I usually like to present a good strong line of infantry, and then, blitzkrieg style, form a bunch of schwerpunks of tanks and basically just push through. I like to spread out the divisions because tanks are pretty goddamn strong, especially when you're invading something like Poland or France. But, you get the idea. I mean, I'm trying to make it so that I'm covering as wide of a front as possible. But the thing about it is that when you've got infantry, the infantry can really hold down a lot of stuff, especially when you upgrade the living shit out of their defense. Because when you give them an anti-tank division and an artillery division and engineers... Oh my god, they're near unstoppable. I mean, you throw every goddamn thing at them and they will not budge whatsoever. I mean, they have insanely high defense compared to everything else. I mean, you look at the defense of infantry and it's insane. I mean, let's see here. Oh, where's the defense at? Yeah, defensiveness. Motorized has got pretty high, but look at infantry. Yeah, it's got the exact same. But the thing about that is that they're actually... I think they actually get better than any other division in the game in defensiveness, other than mechanized. Mechanized is like your crush everything in sight infantry division. Motorized is just a slightly faster, slightly weaker infantry division, but I think you get the idea. So, alright, so let's order our troops here. First I'm going to detach all of these different units. Rather different HQs. Because they're not really that worthwhile. It's really getting laggy now. Okay, almost got them all. And you don't need nearly this many HQs. It's totally worthless to have this many. And the good thing about disbanding so many troops is that when you disband them, you actually get free manpower from it. So, yeah, there you go. And so I'm going to do a few calculations here. You don't need to defend against anyone except for really France. Really here you just want to cover the entire West. Netherlands, Belgium, France, Luxembourg. I think I am going to take over Switzerland and possibly even invade from the north from Switzerland. But we'll have to see. I might be able to do it, I might not. I am going to annex Austria. I hope that the event plays properly. Sometimes the Austrians aren't taken over and I can't annex them, but we'll have to see. And I am going to take over Czechoslovakia. I'm going to try to do that before I go to war with Poland. I'm not sure if that's going to work. But, hopefully the Allies will not declare war on me before then, because my forces probably won't be fully deployed or anything like that. I'm thinking now, actually, maybe what I should do is I should try to invade Poland and Czechoslovakia simultaneously, because if I do that, that means my forces will be totally deployed. I won't have to worry about anything at all. And I don't want that stupid Slovakian puppet state either, or let Hungary take over more than what it should. I'm not sure if I can get the Danziger War event. That's basically what starts World War II. But we'll have to see. I'll play it. If I have to do it later on where I annex the Czechs completely, I'll do it. And I don't care if I get a tiny ass country in Slovakia. It doesn't matter, you know. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so let's do some calculations here. Don't need to defend against Denmark. They have no army practically. Okay, so every infantry HQ has just a second.